The Grand Council chamber floated in the center of the Alliance station, surrounded by endless stars. The room was enormous. Tall alien leaders sat in glowing chairs that hovered above the silver floor. Their bodies were different shapes and sizes. Some had scales. Some had metal skin. Some had eyes that shined like cold moons. In the very middle of the chamber stood 5 humans. No armor. No weapons. Just simple dark uniforms. They looked small compared to the others. A deep voice echoed across the chamber. High Warlord Zareth rose from his throne. His armor was black and edged with red light. His species was known across the galaxy for strength and conquest. When he moved, the floor seemed to tremble. He looked down at the humans with open amusement. "So this," he said slowly, "is the species requesting equal status in the Galactic Alliance." A large hologram appeared in the air. It showed images of Earth. Cities burning. Humans fighting wars. Humans crying. Humans lying wounded on battlefields. Soft laughter spread across the chamber. "Your kind calls itself resilient," Zareth continued. "But we have studied you. Your bones break easily. Your skin tears easily. You require oxygen. You require water. You fall to disease. You age quickly. You die quickly." More laughter followed. One alien delegate clicked its claws together. "They are fragile creatures. Emotional. Divided. Weak." The human representatives did not react. They stood still. Calm. Zareth leaned forward. "The Alliance does not need delicate beings who collapse under pressure." The hologram changed. It showed footage of a human soldier screaming in pain. It showed a human colony destroyed by a storm. It showed emergency broadcasts from Earth. "Look at them," Zareth said. "Always struggling to survive." Silence filled the human side of the chamber. Finally, one human stepped forward. He was not the largest. Not the oldest. His uniform had no medals. His name was Captain Elias Ward. He looked up at the towering warlord without fear. "Yes," Elias said calmly. "We struggle." The chamber quieted slightly. "Yes, we break. We bleed. We fall." Some aliens smirked. "But that is not the whole story." Zareth tilted his head. "Then enlighten us, human." Elias took a slow breath. "When we fall, we rise again." A few aliens laughed loudly at that. Before anyone could respond, a sharp alarm screamed through the chamber. Red lights flashed across the walls. The silver floor vibrated. For a moment, no one understood what was happening. Then a mechanical voice echoed from the ceiling. "Warning! Unknown hostile fleet has entered restricted space. Defensive shields failing." The hologram above them flickered and changed. Now it showed something else. Dark ships. Dozens of them. Surrounding the Alliance station. Firing massive energy weapons. Explosions lit up the stars outside the chamber windows. Shock spread across alien faces. "That is impossible," one delegate whispered. "No fleet can reach this sector undetected." Another explosion rocked the station. The chamber lights flickered. A section of the ceiling cracked, sending sparks raining down. Zareth barked orders in his own language. Elite guards rushed toward the exits. Panic began to spread through the chamber. The humans did not run. Captain Elias turned to his team. "Stay close," he said quietly. A violent blast struck the station. The floor split open. Smoke and fire filled the air. Metal debris crashed down from above. One human officer was thrown across the chamber. His body slammed into a broken pillar. Flames surrounded him. Several aliens looked away. "He is dead," one of them muttered. The fire burned fiercely around the fallen human. The smoke thickened. Then, through the flames, a shape moved. A hand pressed against the floor. Slowly, painfully, the human officer began to push himself up. His uniform was torn. His skin was burned. Blood ran down his face. But he was alive. Across the chamber, alien scanners began to beep in confusion. Zareth stared at the human, his laughter gone. The officer coughed, wiped the blood from his mouth, and forced himself to stand. Outside, another explosion shook the stars. Inside the chamber, the laughter had completely disappeared. The Grand Council chamber was no longer a place of debate. It had become a battlefield. Smoke filled the air. Sparks rained from broken walls. The once proud leaders of the Alliance now rushed toward emergency exits. Outside the massive glass walls, dark enemy ships surrounded the station. Their hulls were sharp and strange. No one recognized their design. Bright beams of energy slammed into the station's shields again and again. Defensive grid at 40%. the station AI announced. Its voice was calm, but the situation was not. High Warlord Zareth stood tall despite the chaos. "Deploy the Iron Guard," he ordered. Large armored alien soldiers stormed into the chamber. They carried advanced plasma weapons. Their armor was thick and shining. They were known as the strongest warriors in the Alliance. Another explosion tore through the station. A section of the outer wall shattered. The chamber was exposed to space for a split second before emergency shields activated. The shockwave threw bodies across the floor. Captain Elias Ward pulled one of the alien delegates to safety. He did not hesitate. He did not ask questions. The enemy ships began boarding the station. Black metal pods attached to the hull. Moments later, the first hostile soldiers entered the corridors. They were tall, thin, and moved like machines. Their weapons fired sharp blue pulses that cut through armor. The Iron Guard met them at the entrance. Blaster fire filled the hallway. The sound was loud and violent. One by one, alien warriors fell. Their armor cracked under the enemy weapons. When they hit the ground, they did not move again. Zareth watched in disbelief. His strongest soldiers were being destroyed. "Impossible," he whispered. Captain Elias turned to his team of humans. "We hold this line," he said calmly. They moved forward without fear. Their weapons were simpler than alien technology, but their eyes were focused. An enemy pulse struck a human marine in the chest. He flew backward and hit the wall hard. The smell of burned fabric filled the air. Several alien leaders watched closely. The marine slid to the floor and stopped moving. "There," one alien said quietly. "Fragile." Seconds passed. Then the marine's fingers twitched. His chest rose slowly. A medic scanner from a nearby alien began to beep rapidly. Cellular activity increasing, it reported. Tissue regeneration detected. The burned skin around the wound began to close. Slowly. Not perfectly, but clearly healing. The Marine groaned in pain. His breathing was heavy. With shaking arms, he pushed himself up. Zareth stared at the scanner data appearing in the air. The numbers did not make sense. Human cells were repairing at an accelerated speed. Adrenaline levels were extremely high. The Marine picked up his weapon again. His voice was weak, but steady. "Still here," he muttered. The humans advanced together. They did not move like the Iron Guard. They moved with urgency, helping each other, covering each other. When one fell, another pulled them back. Another human was hit in the leg. He screamed, but continued firing from the ground. A fellow soldier dragged him behind cover. Within minutes, the bleeding slowed. Muscles began to tighten and repair. The alien scientists who had remained in the chamber watched in shock. "They are not ignoring pain," one said. "They are enduring it." The battle grew louder. Enemy soldiers pushed forward, but the humans refused to retreat. Each time one was knocked down, they struggled back up. Not instantly, not perfectly, but they rose. High Warlord Zareth felt something unfamiliar. It was not anger. It was not pride. It was doubt. Outside the station, another massive enemy ship moved into position. Its main weapon began to charge. A deep red light gathered at its core. Inside the broken chamber, Captain Elias looked at the growing light through the cracked window. He understood what was coming. He turned to Zareth. "You said we collapse under pressure," Elias said quietly. The enemy weapon fired. The entire station shook violently. And this time, even the strongest aliens were thrown to the ground. The blast from the enemy ship shook the entire station. Lights went out. The chamber fell into darkness for 3 long seconds. Only the red glow of emergency systems remained. When the lights returned, the damage was clear. Parts of the ceiling had collapsed. The silver floor was cracked. Smoke rolled across the chamber like a living thing. Outside, the enemy fleet continued its attack. Inside, something had changed. The alien leaders were no longer laughing. They were watching the humans. In a corner of the chamber, alien scientists activated advanced medical scanners. Blue beams of light passed over the injured human soldiers. Data filled the air in glowing symbols. One scientist spoke in disbelief. "Their cells are dividing at abnormal speed." Another adjusted the scan. "Stress hormones are increasing tissue repair. Pain is not shutting their bodies down. It is activating survival response." High Warlord Zareth stepped closer. "Explain," he demanded. The scientists swallowed. "Their biology is built for hardship. Their world is unstable. Extreme climate shifts. Dangerous wildlife. Constant microbial threats. Their evolution favored recovery. A hologram appeared, showing images of Earth. Violent storms over oceans. Blazing deserts. Freezing mountains. Thick jungles filled with predators. Humans survived all of this, the scientist continued. Not because they were strongest, but because they adapt. Across the chamber, a wounded human soldier leaned against the wall. His arm had been badly burned. The skin was red and damaged. Yet slowly, new tissue formed. Not perfect, not fast like a machine, but steady. Captain Elias stood nearby, breathing heavily. His own face was cut. Blood ran down his cheek, but he ignored it. He looked at Zareth. "You studied our wars," Elias said. "But you did not study our history." The enemy boarding forces pushed deeper into the station. Explosions echoed from the corridors. Elias continued, his voice calm but firm. "We survived ice ages. We survived plagues. We survived world wars. Every time we thought it was the end, we rebuilt." Another explosion shook the chamber. Dust fell from above. An alien delegate whispered, "They should be in shock." But the humans were not frozen. They were moving, helping the injured, sharing ammunition, creating defensive positions from broken metal. An enemy unit broke through a side entrance. Thin, black-armored figures stepped into the chamber, their weapons charged with blue light. The Iron Guard moved to respond, but they were fewer now. Many had fallen. Without waiting for orders, the humans stepped forward again. A pulse blast struck Captain Elias in the shoulder. He fell to one knee. The smell of burned fabric filled the air again. Zareth watched closely. Elias gritted his teeth. His hand pressed against the wound. Blood covered his fingers. His breathing was heavy. For a moment, it seemed he would collapse. Then he forced himself up. Slowly, painfully. But he stood. The alien scanners began to beep once more. Tissue repair had already started. Muscle fibers were reconnecting. "This is not normal among Alliance species," a scientist whispered. "Most of us enter medical stasis after trauma." Elias raised his weapon with his uninjured arm. "We don't have that luxury," he said quietly. The humans formed a line in front of the remaining council members. They were not the tallest, not the strongest, but they did not step back. Outside the chamber window, the enemy flagship began moving closer. Its surface was covered in dark armor. A massive symbol glowed across its hull. Inside, fear spread among the alien leaders. But something else spread too. Understanding. High Warlord Zareth looked at the humans standing between his people and the enemy. For the first time, he did not see fragile creatures. He saw something harder to defeat. A species that refused to stay down. The enemy flagship locked onto the station. A deep red beam connected the two structures. It was not a normal weapon. It pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. Within seconds, warning signals spread through the chamber. "Biological agent detected," the station AI announced. "Unknown pathogen entering ventilation systems." A cold silence followed. Alien leaders looked at one another in fear. Many species inside the chamber had weak immune systems. They depended on controlled environments and advanced medicine. The red mist began to flow through broken vents. It was thin, almost beautiful, glowing softly in the emergency lights. Then the coughing started. One alien delegate collapsed from his floating chair. Another gasped for air, clutching its throat. Their skin changed color. Their breathing slowed. Medical officers rushed forward, but their scanners showed terrible results. The pathogen was aggressive, fast, designed to shut down organs within minutes. High Warlord Zareth tried to stand tall, but even he dropped to one knee. His powerful body trembled. Across the chamber, the humans also breathed in the red mist. Captain Elias felt the burn in his lungs immediately. His vision blurred. His legs felt weak. One of his soldiers fell beside him, shaking violently. For a moment, it looked like the enemy had won. "This is the end," one alien scientist whispered before collapsing. But the humans did not stop moving. They struggled. They coughed. Some fell to their knees. Yet something different was happening inside their bodies. Their immune systems reacted like an army under attack. White blood cells increased rapidly. Fever levels rose. Their hearts beat faster, pushing blood through their veins at high speed. "It is fighting back," a surviving alien medic said in shock, while watching human bioreadings. Captain Elias fell against a broken pillar. Sweat covered his face. His breathing was rough and painful. "Stay awake," he told his team. "Keep breathing." One young human soldier collapsed completely. Zareth watched closely. Seconds passed. The soldier's body trembled. His temperature spiked dangerously high. Then slowly, his shaking decreased. His breathing stabilized. His eyes opened again. The red mist began to fade inside the chamber. Not because it was gone, but because human filtration units had been activated. The humans had modified their own breathing masks within minutes, sharing them with others. Several aliens were still unconscious. Some had stopped moving entirely. The humans were weak, exhausted, pale, but they were alive. Captain Elias pushed himself to his feet again. His hands were shaking, yet he raised his weapon toward the enemy entrance. Another group of hostile soldiers stepped into the chamber, expecting silence, expecting victory. Instead, they found humans still standing. A human marine, his voice rough from coughing, gave a small smile. "Is that all?" he said softly. The humans charged forward with renewed force. Their movements were slower than before, but their determination was stronger. They fought not with perfect strength, but with refusal to fall. High Warlord Zareth watched as a human soldier, clearly weakened, shielded an unconscious alien with his own body. The word fragile echoed in Zareth's mind. These beings felt pain. They suffered. They almost died. Yet they rose again. Outside, the enemy flagship paused its advance. Its commanders were studying the unexpected resistance. Inside the broken Grand Council chamber, the balance of respect had shifted. The humans were still breathing hard, still injured, still far from perfect. But they were not broken. The chamber was almost destroyed. Smoke covered the ceiling. Fires burned in small corners. The red emergency lights flashed slowly, like a dying heartbeat. Outside the cracked glass wall, the enemy flagship moved closer. It was massive, dark, silent. "They are preparing a final strike," the station AI warned. "Core weapon charging. If that weapon fired, the Alliance station would be erased." High Warlord Zareth forced himself to stand. His armor was damaged. His breathing was heavy. For the first time in many cycles, he looked uncertain. Captain Elias studied the hologram of the enemy ship. His mind moved quickly. "There is one chance," he said. All eyes turned to him. He pointed at a glowing section on the enemy ship's center. "That is their power core. It feeds the main weapon. If it overloads, the ship will shut down." An alien scientist shook his head. "The radiation levels near that core are lethal. No Alliance soldier can survive long enough to reach it." Elias did not look surprised. "How long would it take to trigger overload manually?" 3 minutes, the scientist answered. 3 minutes inside deadly radiation. Silence filled the chamber. Then a human voice spoke. "I'll go." It was the same Marine who had been shot in the chest earlier. His uniform was still burned. His skin still healing. Another human stepped forward. Not alone. A third joined them. "We finish what we start." Zareth stared at them. "You understand this is almost certain death." Elias nodded. "We understand." There was no long speech. No dramatic goodbye. Just quiet agreement. Within minutes, a small assault shuttle launched from the damaged station. It flew directly toward the enemy flagship, dodging incoming fire. Inside the shuttle, the 3 humans prepared in silence. Their suits were reinforced, but everyone knew it would not be enough for long. They breached the enemy hull using explosive charges. The inside of the ship was cold and dark. Red symbols glowed along the walls. Enemy soldiers rushed toward them. The humans fought hard. Every step forward cost energy. One of them was struck in the side. Blood filled his suit. He kept moving. They reached the core chamber. The radiation warning alarms screamed immediately. Suit indicators flashed critical levels. The core was massive. A spinning column of red energy. It pulsed like a star trapped inside metal. The Marine with the chest wound moved to the control panel. His hands were shaking. Skin on his fingers began to burn, even through the gloves. 2 minutes, he said. Enemy soldiers entered the chamber again. The other 2 humans blocked the doorway. They fought at close range. One lost his weapon and used his body instead, tackling an enemy into the wall. 1 minute, the Marine shouted. His voice was weaker now. His vision blurred. Radiation tore through his cells. His heartbeat became unstable. He finished the sequence. Overload initiated. The 3 humans tried to escape, but the explosion began faster than expected. A wave of energy threw them down the corridor. Outside, the enemy flagship exploded in a blinding flash of white and red light. On the Alliance station, silence followed. The remaining enemy ships retreated immediately. Cheers did not rise. No one celebrated. Zareth stared at the empty space where the flagship had been. Life signs, he demanded. The chamber waited. The scanner flickered. Weak signals appeared in the debris field. 3 faint human heartbeats. Unstable. Damaged. But alive. Regenerating. The battlefield was quiet. Outside the station, broken pieces of the enemy flagship drifted slowly through space. Small fires burned in the darkness. The rest of the hostile fleet had disappeared. Inside the Grand Council chamber, smoke still hung in the air. The floor was cracked. Walls were damaged. Many seats were empty. Medical teams moved carefully among the injured. Alien leaders who once laughed at humans now lay on stretchers, breathing with difficulty. At the center of the chamber stood Captain Elias. His arm was in a support brace. His face was pale. He looked tired beyond words. But he was standing. A hologram appeared in front of the council. It showed the rescue operation outside the station. Small ships moved through debris, searching carefully. Then the scanner locked onto 3 bodies drifting near a broken section of the enemy hull. The chamber became completely silent. Life signs confirmed, the medic announced. Extremely weak, but present. The image zoomed in. The 3 human soldiers were badly burned. Their suits were torn. Their bodies showed heavy radiation damage. One of them moved slightly. Just a small motion of the hand. Alien scientists quickly scanned the data. Cellular reconstruction is active, one whispered. Severe damage, but repair has begun. The words echoed through the chamber. Repair has begun. High Warlord Zareth stepped forward slowly. His armor had been removed. Without it, he looked less like a conqueror and more like a warrior who had survived a storm. He looked at Elias. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he spoke in a calm, steady voice. When we studied your species, we measured strength. He paused. We measured weapon power, physical endurance, military victories. His eyes moved toward the screen showing the injured humans still alive in space. We did not measure recovery. The chamber remained silent. No one disagreed. Zareth lowered his head slightly. It was not a dramatic gesture, but for a leader like him, it meant everything. We called you delicate, he said. We were wrong. Elias met his gaze. He did not smile. He did not show pride. We are delicate, Elias replied quietly. We bleed. We break. We fall. He looked around the ruined chamber. But we get back up. The rescue ships pulled the 3 humans safely inside. Medical teams rushed to stabilize them. Their conditions were critical. Bones fractured. Organs damaged. Radiation poisoning severe. Yet their hearts continued to beat. Hours later, the Grand Council reconvened in the damaged chamber. Many seats were empty, but those who remained sat in deep thought. The vote was called. The result was unanimous. Humanity was granted full and equal status in the Galactic Alliance. Not because they were the strongest, not because they were the most advanced, but because they endured. As the meeting ended, Zareth looked once more at the recovering humans through the medical chamber window. Machines supported them. Bandages covered their wounds. Their breathing was slow but steady. Even now, their bodies were repairing, fighting, refusing to surrender. In a galaxy filled with powerful species, one truth had become clear. Strength is not measured by how hard you hit. It is measured by how many times you rise after being hit. And humanity always rises.